Graphics, graphics, graphics. What can you tell by the graphics here? You would think it's Minecraft, but what if I told you it's GTA 5? Would you believe me? See? Tweak this down, change this, move this here, and boom! GTA 5 low graphics. Oh crap. Graphics are a main part of gaming, and most people play these types of games on, gaming consoles, such as Xboxes, PlayStations, or even a Switch. Some people play them on older gen consoles, such as like an Xbox One, that thing, a PlayStation 4. But what if I want to play newer games, such as this, or this? Wait a minute, aren't these all on the old console? Wait, I need to find an exclusive. Feed My Raptor. Oh, and Feed My Raptor too. So, if we have a PS4, can't we just upgrade from the PS5? Good thing we have two of them. Yeah, gaming is pricey. Like, very pricey. So what can we do? I guess we can stay on the older platform. But what if I want to play, for example, I don't know, the newest COD? Oh wait, it was released on both platforms. Yes, I can play COD! What is wrong with my COD? Yeah, just looking at it, there are so many differences between the Xbox One and Series X. It's unbelievable. The Series X can play the game at 4K, while the Xbox One can barely hit 720p, 50 FPS at best, and a slideshow at worst. Look at this grass, there is none. So why do game companies do this? Money, that's it. Well, looking more in depth, it's mostly due to money. Another reason because of this is the increase of money it takes to make a new game. It takes a whole team to make just one COD, and that adds up a lot in cost. Another reason is because people haven't upgraded yet, and if we don't offer the game on that platform, we may lose the sale. But with doing that, they probably won't upgrade as the games they want are still getting released on the console they have. Well, I guess GTA 6 might be different. What the hell? Why? Well, let's just look at more examples. Looking at the Simpsons game, that is a lot of consoles. Okay, Xbox 360, makes sense as it's the newest console. PS3, again, makes sense, newest console. PS2, that is weird. Wouldn't they need to make a new game as the PS2's architecture is nothing like the Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3, as the PlayStation 3 was kinda like a supercomputer or something? So what do? They just lowered the graphics and compiled it to PlayStation 2, as the software they used was Renderware. You may have heard of it, as games such as Skate 3, SpongeBob SquarePants Lights Camera Pants, and the first free 3D GTA games. That is hard to say fast. Anyways, the Renderware engine supports building the game for Wii. Makes sense as the Wii has a pretty big install base. GameCube, not as big as an install base, but the hardware is pretty similar to the Wii, so why not? And Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, most modern consoles of the time. That makes sense. Wait, no. The Wii, PlayStation 2, and PSP versions use Astora, which is a different engine that is still used today. And the game that you may have heard that actually uses it is Sniper Elite 5. Isn't that funny? So anyways, what does a game look like on PS3? Cool. PlayStation 2? Okay, looks similar. Just one of them is in HD, and one of them is the PlayStation 2 version, but at the core, they're the same game. Well, not graphically, but everything else is very similar. Wait, did the DS port? That can't be the same version. Renderware doesn't support DS. I'm not surprised, but I'm a little bit disappointed. Yeah, it's not at all similar to the console counterparts. And that's okay. I think a DS is a little bit weaker than a PlayStation 2, so why don't we just look at more examples? The 7th generation was kind of the turning point for cross-gen games. There were way too many of them, and the games they chose were very graphically good. Like, what is here? What is wrong? This game looks disgusting. COD Black Ops 3 is a great game to speak about, as they cut down almost everything, including the campaign? You may be thinking, oh, it's just a mission or two. It was the whole campaign. Why? Because it was unplayable on PlayStation? If it's unplayable, make it unplayable on the PlayStation 3, as in, not making a version for it. All the game just included was multiplayer and zombies, and they did not work well. I can't stress this enough. Why do companies do this? Why don't we talk about the meat of my rambling? The second type of low graphics in gaming, PC gaming. Yeah, I play PC games. It's my favorite place to play games, as I have choices, and the choices are nice to have. Yes, I have 100 games, and I have only played 10 of them. Anyways, with the openness of PC gaming, come low-spec PCs. Some PCs are just not made for gaming, but many people, including me a couple years ago, didn't care about that, and they still use non-gaming computers for gaming. Was it good? No. Was it playable? Kind of. Should you? No. And people will try anything to get non-gaming computers to play games they want, even if it took sacrificing graphics, gameplay, and audio. But hey, now you can play the game at a smooth 30 FPS, rocky 20 FPS, 15 FPS, 7 FPS. You may be saying, this FPS is unplayable. This is very untrue. I've seen some people play through the whole game of Cyberpunk at 7 FPS. Yeah, people make do. In PC gaming, there are about 3 types of bad graphics. First of all, it's just lowering down the graphics to obscenely low. Some games have hundreds of little dials and settings to tinker with. And some games just let you lower the res and that's it. Most AAA games have the former type of graphics menu, as they need to be as accessible as possible, i.e. letting more computers be able to play the game, and obviously some games will support. Let's see how the graphics look in a couple of games. Oh wait, we need to talk about the hardware. We could use like a Ryzen 7 5800 3D with an RTX 3080, or we could use the worst option available. And the worst available option, for me, is a ThinkPad with not an i3, but a Celeron. That is ungodly bad. An i3 is like getting shot with a Glock, and a Celeron is being shot with a machine gun on full auto. Yeah, very different. But it's perfect for what we're doing today, as lower end hardware will show the most performance uplift when using the worst graphics. Oh yeah, the Celeron is a 1007U. Yeah, you can probably guess my opinion of it. 8GB of DDR3 RAM. RAM is rarely the bottleneck, but it may be a bottleneck if we use a bad OS. So, we could use a Linux distro for low-end PCs, but these come with the downsides of using Proton and Wine. The overhead of Wine and Proton add a slight decrease in performance. Also, this laptop doesn't support Vulkan, so yeah. So, if we're going to use it, we have to use an outdated API for graphics. Oh yes, graphics! But what game's graphics are we going to use? I want a game that has a pretty good graphics menu. We could use Half-Life 2. It's on an engine that has been poked to and looked at to death, so it means that people know how it works. But I don't want to use Half-Life 2. I'm not going to use Half-Life 2. I'm going to use TF2. It has better guides to worsen the graphics. So we have about 10 dials to play with. This is a far cry from a game such as GTA 5. Let's just put them all to the lowest value. Okay, that isn't very good. But we can't even lower the graphics anymore, so let's just look into a different game. GTA 5, it's a pretty big game. No, not like that. Like in space requirements, over 100GB. I'm using the legacy version, as in if we use the enhanced version, I think this PC would explode. This is not bad FPS, about 20 FPS indoors. We can do a lot worse, but for some reason the default config isn't at the lowest possible settings, such as this, and this, or this. So how much performance uplift does that give us? About carry the 1, take away b square, nothing. This is the first type of graphics in low-end gaming, so just using the default lower settings. But what if we could do more? TF2 has a massive community of people trying to make the game run on anything, and make it look terrible in the process. So let's figure out how they do it. Okay, here's a simple config to use. Master config. Put the file into the TF custom folder, and that's it. It seems to be a lot better from 26 FPS to 40 FPS. It's about an increase of 53%. That's pretty good. But what if we could go further? If you look at the performance graph, it looks like the CPU is a bottleneck. You know what uses less CPU? Linux. I'm just using a light version of Debian here, MX Linux. So using the config and going into game, I guess the game can't open for some reason. The default option here uses Vulkan, and if you remember, I said the CPU doesn't support Vulkan, so that's why it didn't work. Anyways, let's get into the game. How is that? Hello? Is this a bishop? Because my game is possessed! Turns out the config and the drivers get confused or something as this happens, but again, it's a simple fix. Just adding this to a file and cool, we're in. And after doing a simple benchmark, we lost about 10%. This is probably because we're using OpenGL instead of using a better API like Vulkan or DirectX. So, how do we get a game like GTA 5 to look worse? Well, let's look into the settings file, as it might give us more control to do what we want to the game. But first, I just want to try out a random config from the internet that is meant for low-end PCs. So pasting everything here, we get an increase of 5%, but hey, it does give more FPS, but that's really it. Well, that's the second type of bad graphics in gaming, making the game look terrible, but you can still look at it without getting a headache. Wait, does that mean the next category is no. So how do we get the graphics to barely look like, you know, the game? Well, first, let's use the lowest version of master config. That looks pretty bad, but we can go a little bit further. Well, first we can use a lower version of DirectX, but how? We can't change the DirectX version. With adding another line to the launch options, we can launch it in DirectX. Now it looks about the same. Hopefully it gives us an increase in performance. Now some effects like Uber don't blink like they do in DirectX 9, but that slight increase of performance is worth it. Let's make it worse. What's the first thing that comes to mind when I say TF2? Some people would say guns. Some people would think it's not a shooter, but a hat game. So let's make this game into a shooter game by getting rid of all the hats. Adding a mod called no hats and pasting it here, we have no hats. This gives us a little bit more performance at the cost of the game's hats. But what if we could push it a little bit further? With another mod by the name of Old School Characters, we can make the character models look a little worse, but again, hopefully it adds a little bit of performance. Also, this mod doesn't work on official servers as there's a command called svpure, which chooses which mods are allowed and disallowed. And for official servers, they use svpure1, which means this mod doesn't work on official servers, but most community servers use svpure2, which means the mod will work on them. And for the last mod, I want to use flat textures, as if you couldn't take it from the name, it makes all the textures flat and ugly. Now the game looks very bad, like terrible, but let's go further. We'll be using some configs that make our game look worse. Let's go into files and find this file called autoexec.cfg. Now let's add all the things we need. mat_fog, which gets rid of this effect, but we need worse. r_LOD6, which makes all textures look terrible with this flat texture, but this kinda does nothing in performance. Now this is probably the worst one. Actually, the two worst commands. They are map_picmit10 and map_fullbright. Now, with that, we now have no lighting, and everything looks crap. But here's the thing, we can't use them in real games, as they need cheats enabled, so is this it? No, I can't let this be. Let's try one more command, viewport. This is a command that controls the resolution. No, we probably shouldn't do that, but since we're playing at 720p, If we use 0.5, we get 360p, and to be honest, that doesn't improve performance that much, as the game looks worse, but it doesn't really get that much in performance. But since we did 0.5, can we do like 0.0? Wow, I have no idea what to say, this just looks awful. But now, how much FPS do we get? Like 5 more FPS, and the game looks, bad. Oh, I forgot to remove one thing. The HUD! Wow! It looks like Minecraft, but, a lot worse. And unplayable. And doesn't look like Minecraft. But hey, I guess that was the idea of making the game look as bad as possible. Should you do this to your install of TF2? No! GTA 5. Let's make this game look like Minecraft or Dwarf Fortress. First of all, let's go into config, and there is a lot to mess with. Well, let's go from top to bottom. What is the tessellation value? I don't know, it seems to allow services to, yep, that has to be taxing a little bit on the performance. LOD scale. LOD basically means the level of detail. This is a performance technique. It basically makes models that are far away and gives them less polygons so it's easier to render. In GTA 5, we can lower this not to just 0, but to -2. Well, that'll be in our config. And we have two other LOD related things here. Ped and vehicle. Ped are people, and the vehicles are, can you guess? Bikes. And with these, we can lower them to -2. Shadow quality? Shadows are like the most taxing things in games. That's an easy 0. What about the next 5 settings? About MSAA, anti-aliasing, which doesn't really matter as we're not going to use them, so... What about texture quality? It is just the texture quality, and if it's at 0, it equals to normal. And most of the settings do the same thing, so let's just put all of these to 0, or normal. Wait, when I put texture to 3, it gets worse? And anything higher like 4 is the same. So I guess we'll stick to 3? Almost everything is at 0 or false. And everything like max LOD scale is at -1. So let's try to play with these settings. That is pretty bad, but we could do more. I don't know. We could decrease the render scale to 0.5, so instead of 800 by 600, it's 400 by 300. That is pretty bad, but what if we decrease it again? What about changing it to 200p, and decreasing the render scale to 0.5? What do we do it again? Where was I? This is GTA 5, and this is pretty bad graphics. So that seems to be it. We have 5 ways that games can look bad. Consoles that are last gen and weak, as I have to lower the graphics just for them to play on these systems, but they will work and look sorta okay. Next is PC gaming, and just lowering the settings to the lowest. It does make the game look bad, sometimes depending on the game, but in the case of GTA 5 it looks pretty okay. Next is using unofficial ways to decrease the graphics, such as installing a config or going to the game files and changing them. And oh no, the worst is making the game look as bad as possible, just to squeeze that little FPS as possible. And yes, you do get 20-ish FPS, but the game now looks like an Atari game. Spot the difference? They were both GTA 5. After getting TF2 and GTA 5 to run on my computer, I can finally sit down, relax, and play. Well, what's this? It's not really a game, is it? Well, actually it is a game, see? That pixel changes when I press this button.